audio is working now. So I've got a home like sound system that automatically connects to my phone all the time, and clearly it connected to the phone, and it was trying to, send the signal that way. So anyway, I think got the signal back working again. If I do my my checks here, it looks like everything is looking normal. So now the stream is back up. We're going to talk about engineered obsolescence. So I'll start my talk over about exactly what I was talking about. Engineered obsolescence is it's been packaged as this thing that is going to be great for people, right? You get the latest and greatest of everything, the latest materials, the latest technology, all these kind of things. And truth is, that's not what happened, right? The engineered obsolescence thing is giving you actually inferior products and updates that are meant to track you, updates that limit or restrict the things you're able to do with your products and services. They've actually given you an inferior product, right? And I know this because I'm a luxury goods manufacturer. I make high-gloss lacquered furniture. We make beautiful boutique stain furniture. We make all kinds of really cool furniture. And the idea that I could outsource all that work to another country is not, like, I'm well aware of it, and I've looked into it many times. And the truth is that the manufacturing process over in foreign countries are fantastic. The products or the materials are garbage. And this is one of the things that we've been sold kind of a bunch of garbage about exactly what engineered obsolescence is going to be good for. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how companies like Apple, John Deere, BMW, hell, even my Audi, they're using engineered obsolescence and control mechanisms within the software updates and things like that, so that you cannot actually repair your products, right? You can't, there's no way for you to replace the phone on your iPhone because of things that they embed in the hardware that allows the phone to not want to talk or play well with components you would try and fix, right? Things that you would want to replace. Same thing with automobiles. If you don't have the right software in order to talk to the computers within the cars will not talk back to you. Or if you try and put products that are inferior, that are digital, the car has serialization, and this goes something, the cars have it, hell, even appliances today have it. They have serialized numbers within their own manufactured products that if you don't have one of those serial numbers, the product is not going to play nice with the way you're trying to repair, right? So if, a great example is what my wife, she cracked her iPhone, right? She's got an iPhone 15, I think it's like a Max or whatever the big one is. And anyway, she was going to go to Apple. She went to Apple. We said to Apple, hey, we need to replace this thing. They're like, hey, great, you need to replace the screen. It's going to cost you $650. And they're like, you can get a brand new phone for $750 because you're eligible for an upgrade. So we still thought that was kind of expensive. So we kind of looked around. We made some telephone calls. And we found a guy who actually owned a freaking little convenience store, and says, oh yeah, I'll replace your iPhone 15, no problem. I'll replace the screen. Did it for $150, right? So we drive there and we get the screen replaced. He replaces it in like 30 minutes, like really quick. He had a whole bunch of them on hand. We get the phone back, phone works great. Well, fast forward about 24 hours and the phone is suddenly not waking up like it's supposed to, right? Or when you would do the touch screen on the screen, it would kind of turn a little bit green and it was starting to do kind of goofy things. Now, the first thing you're going to think is that, well, that's a garbage screen you bought. That screen's no good, and the truth is that inside these phones, there is serialized numbers, okay? And I know this because my stepdad used to work for a company called, oh gosh, it starts with a P, it's like Petro or Pedro or something like that. They make ethanol gas, right? Every gallon of gasoline is serialized, right? So they know exactly where all the fuel's going. They know where all this stuff's going. Well, anyway, when your phone is talking to the screen does not have the Apple authentic serialization number within it, and so it does not play nice with the aftermarket screen. And this is done specifically to deter people from having their screens replaced at anywhere other than an Apple authorized dealer, right? And this is wrong, guys. And this is one of those things that companies do not want you to know about, right? They don't want you to know that when Apple updates your phone, right, they're taking out things that they know aren't working or are advantageous to the company, right? So again, like the photos, have you guys noticed how Apple Photos don't work anymore? Like, it's kind of messed up the way that they change the the way the folders work, the way you can scroll through. They changed all that shit, right? Now, it has nothing to do with whether the customers liked it or didn't like it. It's all for Apple, right? It's all to help them track your data and to help them have a little bit more control over how you search for pictures, how your pictures are categorized. Anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole there. But these companies are doing these things, and it really creates a massive problem for people like you and I, right? Okay, and I'm coming at this from a person that likes to work with these, right? I like to repair things. I like to fix things. There's a lot of guys that like to do this stuff. But what these companies are doing is they're slowly making it so you can't fix things. You can't repair things. You can't buy products, right? And they don't even want to make these products, to be quite honest with you. They don't want to make products that you can there repair stuff yourself, because that means that you can make it last longer. And if you make it last longer, that means you're not buying the latest and greatest every single year. And this is death for a large company, right? If you're a mega corporation, and a lot of people don't understand this, but hear me out on this one, guys. So if you're a mega corporation, here's the biggest threat to a mega corporation. The biggest threat are small companies, right? And you might say, well, that kind of doesn't make any sense. Like, small companies don't, like, how are they going to compete with a big company? Okay, here's the thing. Here's what happens, right? So, and again, I'm going to continue with the Apple analogy at the moment because everyone kind of knows Apple. So what happens is Apple has mega factories over in China, right? Foxconn, all these kind of places. We've heard about this stuff. What happens is if Apple sells, say they sell 25% less phones, okay? The amount of factories and people that it takes to keep that machine over there in the third world running is insane, guys. Like, if you understand anything about manufacturing, if you don't have sales, right, you don't have demand for your product, you got to lay people off. You got to close down factories. You got to do all this stuff, and it hurts everybody. And it's the same thing when you live in the third world, right? So what happens is Apple has to keep the control over who manufactures the products for their phones, right? The screens, the screws, the cases, all this kind of stuff. If Apple doesn't manufacture that stuff, that means someone else is manufacturing it, right? That's competition. And I talk about it all the time on these streams. These people do not want competition, right? And what they do is they say, hey, we're going to keep the price down. We're going to keep the price down. You're going to get cheaper products. And this is true. You are getting cheaper products. But the reason you're getting cheaper products is because nobody here in America can produce what needs to be produced to help you keep that phone longer, right? To keep that car longer. This stuff is not made here anymore. And a lot of it is made, most of it is actually made overseas. And Apple is very specific about who they let manufacture products for their phones, their earbuds, all these kind of things, and it's a big problem. So I don't know what we do about it. I don't quite have all the answers, but that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about engineer obsolescence, right? And the picture that I chose for the thumbnail, right, is kind of a robot working on a human, and I kind of chose that because the truth is that the thing is getting ready to be out-engineered, right? The thing is becoming obsolete is the human, the organic, cell, right? This thing needs to be taken care of, right? We got to get rid of the organic stuff. They're going to try and put your mind in a machine, That's ultimately where it's going. We're not going to talk about that specifically, but there's a lot of crazy things going on with these companies. And so we'll talk about engineer obsolescence, okay? So my name's Eric Wilken. I own the Splendid Crow here in St. Louis, Missouri. We are a fine furniture manufacturer and paint company. We are known for our high gloss lacquer coating. We ship furniture all over America, and it's a great middle-class living. We're a small 7-figure business, and we employ, I think, about 8 people at this point. We might be looking to hire another person or two. I'm looking for a sander right at the moment. We'd love to find a young person that wants to learn about woodworking. Someone that's young. I don't want old people. I want a young, and I want someone like right out of high school, 18 years old. So anyone's looking for that kind of work in the St. Louis area, send them our way. So we're, I'd say we're a fairly well-known company on the internet, and we make a great product, a beautiful product. It's considered a luxury good by many people. So if you guys want to see what we sell, go to thesplendidcrow.com. All the furniture's there, and not trying to sell anything else. You can buy furniture just like anybody else, right? So there's no deals or discounts. It's just furniture, So anyway, okay, talk for the day, engineered obsolescence, okay? So one of the things that I love personally about life is that I get to make things, right? I get to, like here, I built this big deck, right? This deck overlooks the Mississippi River. It's 3 tiers. We got a tier above us. We got the tier that I'm on, and I got a tier down below, right? So this deck is larger than most people's homes. It's massive. It's all made out of cedar wood, and I love this kind of stuff, right? So the truth is that big corporations don't want you making anything. They want to limit the amount of products that you can buy to make your own stuff, right? And they're definitely limiting the technology, So the other thing they do is they limit what you can repair, right? One of my greatest loves in life is cars. I love cars, and I like shit cars. I like cars that I can fix. I like cars that have problems. I like to do brakes, suspensions, not so much transmissions, but maybe some interior stuff, like basic kind of, not too crazy, but I love cars, right? Being able to buy replacement parts, putting those new parts on is fantastic. Building computers, I used to love building computers. Again, a lot of this stuff, there's some of it that you can do, but it's slowly pushing to where people aren't going to do this anymore. And these companies don't want you replacing things on your own. They don't want you fixing nothing, right? It's very well documented that John Deere stopped letting people that bought their tractors work on them. And their excuse is, well, people don't know how to work on these tractors, and there's too much technology. And the truth is that they're gatekeeping, right? They're gatekeeping with the software. Auto manufacturers do it, tractor companies do it, Apple does it. It's very well done. BMW has been well known for doing this kind of stuff. BMW tried to charge you guys for using heated seats of all things. They tried to do a subscription service, and this is what all these companies are doing. They do not want you guys making anything. They don't want you repairing anything. They really want you to just pay them to do everything, whether that's a service, whether that's repair, replace, or whatever. And they have to do this because, again, these factories that they have overseas, you have to feed that beast, right? And if you have people here in America making things, repairing things, coming up with their own innovations on your products, that's competition, right? And they can't have that. And again, I'm always talking about competition, guys. It's the biggest problem in America. We have a massive lack of competition. And if we don't start innovating on a small kind of garage and little workshop level, there's going to be nothing left. The mega corporations are going to gatekeep everything. The production is going to be done overseas, right? So you're not going to know how to do anything. You're not going to have access to anything. You're only going to be able to buy something on the internet, on your phone, or pay for subscription, again, on your phone. And that's how it's going to be, So if we don't fix the engineered obsolescence problem, no one's going to know how to do anything. And that's kind of what it goes on. That's the whole point of my channels. I'm always talking to you guys about how to start businesses, how to make things, how to get away from working for somebody else to working for yourself. And it's extremely difficult. There's nothing easy about it. And that's the thing. There's nothing convenient about it. And in a society where everyone is selling convenience, why do you think Amazon exists? It's convenient. Why do you think Netflix exists? It's convenient, right? We sell convenience. The idea of being able to work for yourself is there's nothing convenient about it. In fact, it's completely inconvenient, but that's what we talk about for the most part. Okay, so I wrote some notes down about engineered obsolescence. Okay, so some of the things we're going to talk about is this thing called right to repair, right? So right to repair is this concept that if you buy something, the manufacturer has to sell the equipment or the tools, the scan tools, the parts, these things, so that you can actually repair and work on that product yourself. And this is something that, again, you guys have all seen it. Like, how many times have you thought, well, maybe I should try and fix this thing, but there's nothing available, or you want to work on a car, but your scan tool won't talk to the car, right? The software is intentionally designed so that your generic scanners won't talk to these automobiles, or you can get a little bit of basic information, but the concrete information that you need to make a repair is not available unless you buy, in my case, VAG, right? Which is, if you're going to do Volkswagen, Audi Group, you have to have their proprietary software, and it's really expensive, and that's, again, nothing wrong with that necessarily, but if you want to work on your own automobile, like, why would you spend, buy a cheap car and then have to buy insanely expensive scan tools in order to work on it? It just doesn't make any sense, but that's what these companies are doing, right? So this idea of right to repair means that if the company's going to sell something, they got to sell stuff to work on it. It's got to be reasonably priced and reasonably available, So if more companies would do this, if states or governments would require this stuff, you would see these changes. But the truth is that a lot of corporations essentially control our politicians and the institutions that make the laws. So none of these things ever come to fruition, right? They never come to a vote. This idea of right to repair did come about in California. Say what you will about California, but the state did say that, hey, you know what? If you're going to sell these products here, people got to be able to repair them. They got to have parts. You can't just sell something that is no good if it breaks, right? You can't just sell something that cannot be repaired or replaced, right? So that was probably a good thing. Another great law that was implemented. The European Union took if you guys ever had an Apple product, like Apple products are known for these cords, right, that only worked on Apple products, right? And they're these big fat cords, and they're kind of ridiculous, but Apple wanted to have its own cord because guess what? Apple wants to sell Apple cords, and Apple had the the license on the technology. No one else was making these things, so you had to buy an Apple cord, which is great for them, not so good for the end consumer, right? You can't just easily repair that thing when you have to buy a specific Apple cord that is sold by Apple. It didn't make any sense. So EU said, well, hey, if you want to sell these Apple phones, here in, or your Apple products here into the European Union, you gotta have a universal charging cable, which is basically USB-C. And Apple fought it and fought it and fought it, and finally they just had to give up, and now we can all get our Apple phones charged for next to nothing. The cables don't cost anything. They're easy to find. You got them everywhere now instead of looking for that one fucking, Apple cord, which is super irritating. But that's a good thing where a government was able to come in and make a corporation make a change that was actually good for people instead of just good for the corporation. So I'm sure that hit Apple's bottom line, but at the end of the day, it was probably good for the consumer. So yeah, that's another good example. So the right to repair is kind of a big deal. I think that when you foster the idea of repairing things and you foster the idea of making things, working with your hands, you will get a culture that likes to repair things, right? So the truth is that when something can be repaired and is designed to be repaired, it's of much higher quality. And I say this as a furniture maker, but I also say this as a guy that buys heavy equipment, right? If you've ever bought heavy equipment before, heavy equipment is manufactured, designed, and sold with the intent of being repaired, right? Because when you're making a $10,000, $20,000 investment on a tool, if something electronic breaks and you cannot quickly buy that electronic, that machine goes out of business, right? It's no longer producing money, and therefore you got a pissed off customer. So these machines are genuinely designed to be repaired. Now, we're not doing that with a lot of consumer products, and this is a massive problem. And again, you guys have all seen it. Like, you go on Amazon, you buy whatever. Like, I was looking at day beds today because my wife bought a day bed, and I'm looking at the company. The company's name is like ACDACB. Like, who names their company that? Nobody in their right mind would name their company that. Why is anyone buying shit from a company like that? It used to be a brand meant something, right? Like, you wouldn't buy garbage, but that's what we've come to do now. Because again, when the costs come down so much, you don't give a shit about what you're buying and who you're buying it from, right? And this is my big argument with prices. Everyone always says, oh, it's going to raise prices. Good. Prices should go up. Prices should go up. Prices should double tomorrow on most things, And again, I get a lot of hate when I say that kind of stuff. But the truth is that when you have to spend a lot of money on something, you're going to be very careful about where you put those dollars. And again, we just bought a daybed for $300 from Amazon, made by ABCDCBA company, no name. And the bed didn't, the company didn't exactly say what size mattresses would fit on this thing, didn't really show you how to kind of put this thing together, because it's a bullshit company, right? They stole the design from somebody else, right? They stole the design, and then they're selling it, in China, and they're selling it into America. And again, because it's $350, the thing, if it doesn't work, like, I really don't give a shit at the end of the day. Like, it's $350, yeah, it's a lot of money, but if that was $1,000, guess what? We would have been a lot more careful about our decision. We would have made sure we had all of our ducks in a row before we spent that money, right? Now, if that trundle bed was made by a company that we know, like, say, Ashley Furniture, or it was made by a company like Henredon, which doesn't exist anymore, but you would know that there is a level of quality, a level of design, and a level of service within that product that you're going to be taken care of no matter what happens. Today, nobody gives a shit. No one could care less, right? So if you had to pay $1,000 for your Apple iPhone and there was no installment plan, right? They just build it in with the cost of the telephone service. If you had to pay $1,000 I think up front in order to get that phone, people would be much more cautious about how they spend their dollars. If you said manufacturer of that product had to come over here to America, this is big, guys. So say that phone did have to come over here to America, right? And Apple had to produce this product here in America, okay? That phone could be, say it's $3,000, okay? So you're going to buy one phone. You think for a second someone's going to say, well, in 2 years, I got to go get another $3,000 phone. I'd say 75% of the customers would tell Apple to go fuck themselves, right? And then Apple ceases to need all of its people, right? It ceases to need a lot of things, because now instead of making, 250 components to go into one phone, well, now they got to focus on making 20 components, right? And the 20 components that they really need to focus on are the things that go bad, right? So Apple, because it wouldn't want to make a ton of products or it wouldn't want to make a ton of parts for its phones that go bad, right? What it would do is it would up the quality, right? It would up the quality because it's really expensive to have to repair things all the time, but they're not going to do that, right? Their idea is just make a shit ton of stuff over in China, right? And keep whipping out phones, whatever, however many phones, I don't know how many phones Apple makes, 5 million phones a year. Like, I have no idea, right? But if they made a phone that would actually last, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years, things would be very different, So anyway, I hope this kind of makes sense to people. It's, again, as a furniture maker and a person that manufactures things in America, right, with all American-made stuff, I see how manufacturing works. I also manufacture hardware in India, right? So I understand importing, I understand how you get things made in other countries. The truth is that people need to pay more for products that are made in America because, one, the quality goes up significantly because you're going to have a much more discerning customer. It's not people just throwing their dollars wherever they want because they can buy tons of shit. It's no, I can throw a few dollars here. I can throw a lot of dollars at 1 or 2 things. I can't throw a little bit of money at 35 different things, right? The pool of money is the same, but the quality, the service, and the longevity that you're going to get out of that product goes up substantially, And unfortunately, what that does is it leads to a lot of people with bullshit jobs no longer having to work, right? Because you have to be good at what you do, right? You have to be a skilled craftsman. You have to be a really good manager. You have to be a really good engineer. And this always frustrates people because they're like, well, then what am I going to do? And the truth is that you got to learn something, right? You got to get good at something. You got to start off with a company when you're young. You want to see companies hold on to employees longer. You want to see you want to see companies like try and get people from high school to come into their businesses. Make more things manufactured here in America, and they'll have to. They'll have no choice, because again, the quality of the product will go up substantially, which means the more money you can sell for that product. You don't need to sell 1 million phones for $1,000 when you can sell 250,000 phones for whatever $300 or $3,500, like whatever that math is, right? You don't have to sell as many of them. You don't need to do that because the quality is so good, So I hope this kind of makes sense to people. I know it's a little bit kind of all over the place, but it's a really important topic. So anyway, you're in the discussion, hit the like, add the discussion. Let me know what you're dealing with. Let me know the situation you've run into with engineer obsolescence. Did you just buy something and within 3 years you can't even get parts for it anymore? There's no service available for it, and it's basically just a brick or it's junk, and so you just have to basically buy the newest version of it. Like, let me know if you ran into those products because there's a million of them out there. Like I don't know how many times I've bought stuff, and it's just, you go to fix it, you go to replace it, and it's only the new thing available. Like, you can't even buy the old version anymore. It doesn't exist, So, okay, other things we're going to talk about, parts recognition, right? And this is a massive problem in the electronic space, right? Not so much like the heavy machinery stuff, but definitely in anything that's electronics related, right? So the truth is that today, electronics talk to each other, right? Like, so many electronics are embedded with GPS, serial recognition software. They're embedded with all these things. And when you try and put a component into another, whatever, like you try and put what's a good example? Like, you want to put a seat motor into your car, right? Your BMW, but that seat motor is a generic part, right? The BMW is not going to talk to it, meaning that it's a junk thing. You're going to say, well, that company shouldn't sell. Like, it happens all the time, guys. Like, there's plenty of companies that are trying to break the serial code so that their parts will talk to the manufacturer of whatever thing it is you're buying. This is a massive problem, okay? Now, what the auto manufacturers and the phone manufacturers and like the farm equipment manufacturers are doing is, if you don't have an OEM part inside your car, inside your tractor, inside your phone, the rest of the software within that particular piece of machinery will not work right, and it's done intentionally to deter you from doing that, okay? John Deere does it, Apple does it, BMW does it, Audi does it. A lot of manufacturers doing this kind of stuff because, again, they do not want you repairing your own stuff, right? Because it means you don't need them for that thing. Like, it's not enough that they make the product and sell the parts. They want it all. They want you to have to use them, right? And John Deere's the biggest example of this. Like, you literally cannot work on your tractor unless you take it to John Deere, which means you're paying John Deere prices to get the thing fixed, So this is a big problem, So we have to, you almost need like legislation to make generic parts compatible with OEM manufactured goods, whether that's cars, phones, computers, whatever. If we don't do that, again, these mega corporations are essentially they're gonna have a stranglehold on what you do with your product, whether that's repair, replace, service, whatever it might be. They're gonna have control over all this stuff. You're not even gonna have an option. And this is, again, a huge problem, right? And it actually inflates the price of things because, again, lack of competition. Everything comes down to supply and demand and competition. And without competition, these guys could do whatever they want on the pricing side. They can do whatever they want on the manufacturing side. And it's a bummer deal, And again, as a furniture manufacturer, I deal with this shit all the time, guys. Like, how many people I deal with when I'm trying to come up with a product, right? I'm trying to create competition within the furniture space. Especially like the lacquered furniture space. You guys know how many people talk about lacquered furniture and they'll say, oh, our lacquered furniture is applied by hand. Our lacquered furniture is hand polished. We put on 20 coats. They'll talk up their furniture like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then you try and figure out where it's manufactured and you can't find it, right? Because they don't want to tell you, because the truth is it's not made in America, right? It's like, again, if you don't know how to make any stuff, and we don't teach these skills here, like how to make furniture, how to spray lacquers, how to do polishes, how to do, really good sanding and prep jobs. We don't teach this stuff here in America, and it's all done overseas. It will go away. Like, there's no doubt about it. You will just have less and less people that know how to do this stuff. And the people that do know how to do it, like myself, we're going to charge you up the ass for it because, again, there's no competition. So when I come on here and I talk about, like, we got to get young people learning how to make shit. We got to tell kids and teach kids that, repairing stuff is awesome. Busting up your knuckles, running torque wrenches and breaker bars and all this, running a nail into your finger. Like, this kind of stuff's okay. Like, it's part of the job, it's going to happen. But it's awesome. If we don't foster this kind of stuff, like, it's only going to be mega corporations selling shit that's made overseas back to you in America at American prices. So instead of you collecting that margin on your product, right, putting that extra money in your pocket so you can build really nice freaking decks and live in really nice houses, they're going to keep it for themselves. And guess what? They're going to give it to their shareholders. They're going to give it to their C-suite executives, but they're not going to give it to the craftspeople. They will not do it, right? Because you guys don't matter. They'll just take your job and they'll just send it overseas, right? And how many talks have I done, guys, about the furniture industry and how they basically sold out the entire country of America for foreign labor? They just give it all to the corporations. They give it all to the stockholders. And the stockholders, by the way, are not people that work with their hands, right? Because truth is we don't make a ton of money, and that's okay. But again, all these people that have the stock, they're all financial people. They're all investing. They're all what are called angel investors. And this is all they do is rent seek. They buy tons of properties with all their, their profits that they make, which are fine, and they just buy things that essentially, what do they call it? Asset accruing. No, it's not asset. It's interest accruing assets. I forget it. Appreciating assets. That's what it is. And this is what they just buy up everything. They're literally buying up America. Like I heard somewhere someone was saying that the wealthy are buying up because they have so much cash, right? They're always buying up assets that appreciate in value. They have so much cash that they're actually buying up almost everything in America that is being made, right? Like the reason you can't buy houses is because you've got financial institutions and VCs and private equity groups just buying up entire developments of housing so that it can be rented out, right? Because they've got nothing else to spend their money on, and their job is literally to take other investors' money and take that money and spend it. That is literally their job. So if they have a ton of cash in their reserves, that is a net loss for those companies. They have to be buying assets, and that's what they do, and they're buying up everything, which drives the cost of everything up for everybody. And then when you go to work, you're 8 to 5 making $24 an hour. That money was great for me in 2001. I've owned homes my entire life, but fast forward to now, $24 an hour ain't shit. Like, you're not buying anything, because the cost of rent, the cost of mortgages, the cost of everything has just gone through the roof, So it's a big problem, So that the parts recognition thing it's a massive problem, and not enough people talk about it. Like, it's one of these things, like, I'm just kind of bring awareness to this thing and talk about some of the different facets of what has caused engineer obsolescence to have such a freaking stranglehold on America today and the products that we buy. So anyway, let's go to the comments real quick, and then we'll go down to the next one. The next one is software control, right? Software control is a big deal. Again, if everything is digitized, right, it's kind of, we're all kind of leading up to the digitization of everything, and the only thing that can't really be digitized is a human, right? You know, unless you could figure out how to digitize your consciousness, right? And if you can digitize the consciousness, well, suddenly you don't need the human body anymore, right? You don't need any of this stuff. You can essentially put that into a machine, right? Which that has a name as well. So, okay. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of running my mouth today. I got nothing else to do today. I'm just working around the house, got all kinds of projects going on, and figured I'd do a talk. I haven't done a talk in a couple of days. I'm slammed at work, guys. Maybe at the end of this feed, I'll tell you guys, like, just the sheer, like, as a business owner, I'm very fortunate to have a good product and a good company. But even as someone that has a lot of sales and a lot of business, I don't make a shit ton of money. Like, I make a slightly above middle class living, you know, most of the time. There's plenty of times I don't make any money, I lose money. But I have so much work right now, guys, like I can't even begin to explain it. And it's not like it's the same thing, which is the problem, right? I have like so many different things that have to be made, so many different products, right? I just launched a new product, which I'll talk about that in a second. Let's go with their comments, and we'll kind of keep the stream going. I appreciate everyone being here today. Thanks for hanging out with me on your Sunday. Okay, let's see, we got Brandon and Genevieve in here. Good to see you, Brandon, good to see you. Cynthia Roberts, hello, glad you're in here today. Who's this random meme loser? Okay, random, you're 19, dude, that's cool, man. What do you do? What do you want to do? Where are you at? Let me know what's going on. 19, that's pretty young. I'm always talking about getting the young people into the trades, right? Making furniture, which is what I do, learning how to paint, learning how to sand, all these kind of things, learning how to deliver things, big deliveries, complex deliveries to multiple states, in big cities, little cities, rural areas, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of great skills. Very hard to outsource that stuff. So it's these are good skills to learn. Let's see, we got Jordan, is this Zortenauger, maybe? Sorry, my light's kind of bad. Let's see, they don't want the hustle. Yeah, no, and dude, and that's a major problem. But again, we have to get to the young people. You know, who's that? That Mike Rowe guy. He's got a great saying. When people ask him, well, hey, let's just train up a bunch of welders. You know, we'll get all the welders. We'll have all the welders people need. He says the welders of tomorrow are in the 8th grade today. He's 100% right. The welders and the tradespeople that are going to feed the engine of the future aren't even doing the trade yet, right? You have to teach them about the stuff while they're young. You have to put it in their head. Like, people are incredibly malleable. Like, as I get older in life, I realize that if you give a person a lot of bad inputs when they're young, as they get older, those bad inputs are going to metastasize into them not being a productive member of society. And there are people that, you know, that doesn't happen to, and they move in the right direction, all these kind of things. If you put good inputs into people, a lot of times you're going to get productive members of society, you know. But again, it can go the other way too. You can put too many good inputs into someone and they become bad, you know. They start taking advantage of you. They become narcissists, you know, whatever. They lose all the money. They get into drugs. Just a myriad of things can happen, you know. But we've got to get the kids while they're young and teach them that working their hands is cool, man. Working on cars is cool. Working on decks, building houses, you know, making furniture. All these kind of things is awesome. And I always say it for men, you know, and I lose people a little bit because I don't talk about the sexes as they're the same, because they're very different, and that's a good thing. I think it's really important. But men, like, if men want to get chicks, you know, it's like people say, oh, you need money, you gotta have money, or maybe you gotta have a car, you know, you gotta have this, you gotta have that. You know, the truth is that all women really want is they just want you to fix their problems, you know. And again, if you could repair something, if you could make something, you want to see a woman light up, like, make her something, you know, make her a freaking planter, you know, make her anything. You know, they love it. You know, it's we got to do things to get young people excited about working with these, you know, and it's a tough thing to do, you know. And I said, I'm a product of the 90s, and I went to college, I think 3 times. Like, my parents tried their damnedest to get me to go to school for all kinds of things, you know, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't sit there. It just wasn't for me, you know, and that's okay. And more people are realizing that this notion that you can just go to college, you're going to make plenty of money. The whole system is broken. You know, the colleges cost more than, you know, multiple years of your salary that you're going to get with that degree, and that's bullshit, whereas you come and work for a company like me, I'm probably going to pay you 40 grand to begin with because you don't know anything, but once you learn skills, you're going to move up quickly. The more money you can make for me from a production standpoint, the more I'm going to pay you, right? And that's how it should be with everyone. A lot of companies do this thing with scales, and they're like, well, you're a tech 2. That means you can make from this dollar to this dollar, Well, what they don't talk about is that these titles, the Pareto rule falls within everybody, right? It's the 80-20 rule, right? 20% do the work of 80% are worthless, basically. They're doing the work of 20%, right? It's this way in everything in life. The people that do the best work and the most efficient work should be compensated more. And when you start working for a corporation, they don't do that, It's like, well, they'll up you to the next, whatever job title, tech 3. Doesn't work that way. They'll make you wait. They've got stall tactics. They've got all kinds of things they'll do. Oh, there isn't an opening. You ever heard that one? There's no opening. When you're good at something, you don't have to wait for an opening. Like, especially when you're a small business owner, like we don't pay people based on how long they've been with us. We don't pay people, based on what color they are, what sex they are. If we have beers after work, we don't pay based on. We pay you based on what you do, right? The value that you bring to the company, and that's how it should work. And that's, again, probably why I'll never get rich in business, is because we pay our people according to what they do for us. And oftentimes the people that work for us do more than we do. And so they're going to get compensated more than we will in many cases. And that's kind of how it should work. You bring more work back to America, more of that will happen. But when you let mega corporations control all the tech, control all the manufacturing, and then they send it overseas, good luck. So, okay, go through more comments. Sorry, guys. Jordan, great comment though, dude. The hustle is a big problem, again, and we got to get these kids while they're young. It's a real passion of mine. I've talked about many times, like my son doesn't want anything to do with my business, wants nothing to do with what it is that I do. We got 2 daughters. They want nothing to do with our business. They don't want anything to do with our product. They don't like the fact that it's dirty and loud. It's just not what they're into, which again, it's fine, but at the same time, if more of that happens in America, then there's nobody to pass the business down to. We're just going to expect people to know how to start business, come up with ideas, and figure it out on their own. Like, I don't think it should be that way. Parents should be able to teach their kids. They should want to teach their kids. And kids, they don't know it when they're young, but should do what their parents want them to do. And we let 2 generations at this point just kind of do whatever they want to do with federally backed student loans, and look what happened. They all want their money back, right? And they want you to pay for it. They want me, who never went to college, didn't even graduate high school. They want me to pay for it. And we got to fix this thing. So Jordan, man, I love the comment, dude. I appreciate it. Okay, if you guys are in the stream, hit the like button. We're talking about engineer obsolescence, and we can talk about whatever else you guys want to talk about. But let me know if you've ran into this before, what you guys think about it, and name names, name the companies, name the things that they're doing. And it's important to have a real discussion about it. Okay, Aaron, good to see you. Glad you're here today. My Volvo will only take Volvo spark plugs. We thought the engine was bad. We put aftermarket plugs and still misfire, but Volvo spark plugs didn't work. And again, I don't know exactly how that works with spark plugs. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, again, this idea that you can't make generic parts for products I think it's a problem, and again, some people say, well, if you make the product, you can control who works on your product. And again, I don't think that's how America works. I don't think that's how the human condition works. The human condition, we're designed to solve problems, whether that's, living in a cave, finding food, or whatever, you're out of work and you got to go find a new job, whatever it might be. Like, we solve problems, and some people are good at it, some people are terrible at it. But this idea that, you are not able to solve your own problem unless you go to this one person or this one company who has the only solution, right? This is called a monopoly. And when this happens, you end up with companies like Google, right? Google's ad rates are fucking insane, you guys. Like, what these guys are able to charge for their Google advertising it's mind-boggling, right? And the truth is that, like, go try and advertise someplace else. Doesn't work, because they've got literally a monopoly on the internet, and again, no one will talk about it. People have tried to sue Google. The government's tried to go after Google. But again, these people have so much money and so much control over everything that it doesn't work, and I don't know what to do about it. So, Aaron, glad you're here. And yeah, Volvos, I love Volvos, man. My cabinet builder had a Volvo, and they're fantastic cars. But yeah, it would make sense that they would try and do this. I mean, I got an Audi, right? The brain on the transmission went bad. And again, I can't I mean, it's literally just a board that you pull out of a transmission, which I can do. I can yank the fluids. I can pull the board, put the new board back in, put the fluids in there, check everything, test run, all that kind of stuff. I can't code it. Like, you can't code it because Audi's the only company that's going to have the coding for that, you know? So again, an independent mechanic might have some software that might work, you know, but the truth is that Audi's kind of the place you got to go for certain kinds of repairs, and they're charging $4,000 for that repair, whereas the independent guy that you normally would be able to do this kind of, he might charge $1,500, you know? Again, and this is not a new product, right? It's one thing if there's not a lot of experience out there and there's not a lot of people that can do that work, right? But when it's 15 years old, like, it's been around plenty. You don't even make the transmission anymore, right? You're onto a whole different transmission, which again is part of what I'm talking about, engineered obsolescence, you know. And they tell you like, oh, the transmission's better, you know, like, okay, well, does it break down less, right? Does it last longer? Well, not really, you know, but it's new. It's you know, it's a 5 millisecond faster shifting, you know. It's like, well, no one can even feel that. No one even knows what that means, you know. But again, it's a great selling product. Get more people buying that thing, you know. Again, the technology is then gate kept a little bit further because it's new transmission, new technology, new software, all these kind of things. And again, you keep charging more for it, and you just got to stay ahead of the people that are trying to figure this stuff out, you know, on the lower end, right? The guys working in their garages, independent shops, all these kind of things. And again, same thing with phones, guys. Like, these guys, they just keep changing the technology because, again, to change technology with foreign labor is dirt cheap. Like, it's the amount of money you have to spend in a foreign country to protect that technology from being recreated here in America, it's worth whatever it costs to do that. And that's why it's done. That's why you're not going to see this stuff done over here in America. Like, they're not going to let you learn anything about this. It's just not going to happen. It's all going to be done over there where the labor's cheap. There's no laws, right, that would allow anybody to learn about what's being done over there. The Chinese government will never let you have the information that you want. Like, it's all completely gatekept. So anyway, okay, let's see here. We got Jordan. Jordan says, IKEA going to get bigger and bigger. Yeah, no, 100%. You know, and I never astounded on IKEA. Doesn't IKEA use like something like 3 or 4% of all the world's known lumber production? Like, like that's insane, man. But you know, IKEA is interesting because while IKEA, you know, doesn't necessarily talk about like engineered obsolescence, the funny thing about IKEA is that people like the low prices, right? And they like the idea that they can go and change their furniture with the style of the day, you know. And you guys notice the styles change every basically year. So you can go and buy new credenzas, and they're dirt cheap. They're all, you know, particle board with some veneer or some, you know, photo of veneer on them. Maybe they got some thermofoil. All this technology is super cheap, and they're doing it all overseas, right? So people like that kind of stuff, you know, but I don't know if it's necessarily engineered obsolescence. It's more about their shit just falls apart, and because it's cheap, nobody cares. You know, it's like I could go buy a credenza from IKEA for $700, bring it home, flat packed, of course, because it's all brought in from overseas, flat packed, and then I put it together. I spent a couple hours putting it together, and then I've got a, you know, a nice looking credenza or whatever, you know. Or you can pay someone like me $7,000, and I'll build you one and deliver it to your home in any size, any color, any whatever you want, and it'll be perfect, right? It'll never fall apart, and you'll have it until the day you die if you want, you know. But people don't want that anymore. This idea of buying something that lasts a lifetime, those days are over, because all people care about is convenience. You know, it's like, oh, well, if I make a shitty decision and buy a really expensive piece of furniture, like, that really hurts, right? Whereas if I make a shitty decision and buy a cheap piece of shit, tomorrow I'll just go buy, I'll make a better decision and go buy another cheap piece of shit, and I'm out $1,400, you know? So it's just a different way of looking at things, and this is what people want today, and I can't wrap my head around it. I don't understand it, but it is what it is, and I don't know. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. So okay. See, not a troll. Tips for other senior citizens. Not a troll. I don't know what you're looking for as far as tips for other senior citizens. Tips for what? Add to the comments. Let me know what you're talking about, and happy to talk about it. So let's see. Who is this? Matthias? Matthias in here. Good to see you, Matthias. So yeah, so we're talking about engineered obsolescence, and so we'll go back to our products here. Okay, so I've talked about software controls. Software controls are this thing that, again, when the brain, for whatever it is you're working on, whether it's a dishwasher, a phone, a car, whatever, all of these things are modules, and these modules generally talk to like a central computer within whatever it is you're working on. Well, that central computer, if it doesn't recognize the serial number of the components within itself, it doesn't play nice, right? And it doesn't play nice because it doesn't understand the ones and zeros of the binary system that these people are talking, the language that they're talking to. It's that they're specifically designed to not talk well with this kind of stuff, which discourages people from buying this stuff again. And again, the serialization of everything is a real thing. Like, it's, I don't know if people don't know about this, but the serialization of every electronic that we have is one of the reasons that you can't buy aftermarket stuff anymore. Like, it used to be aftermarket stuff was awesome. Like, I came up in the 90s when we had car culture. Car culture was a big deal. You know, the Fast and the Furious movie was just coming out. Like, we were doing car culture before that movie came out, which really like dialed it up to 11. You used to be able to buy really cool foreign-made parts, whether it was wheels, you know, intakes, even like, you know, whatever, you know, rods, you know, just what, like, they were all pistons. Like, they really made good stuff back in the day. Even like your exterior components, wings and body kits and all this kind of stuff. Like, there were a lot of really good things. But as that industry matured and it became, more people became aware that there was good margins in the products within that car community, they started bringing in tons of shit, guys. And it got really bad, and now it's destroyed. Like, if you guys haven't noticed, if anyone knows anything about car culture is dead. You know, there's little pockets of it, you know, but people don't give a shit about their cars anymore, especially with the advent of EVs. EVs have destroyed car culture altogether. Like, I've never met a guy with muscles that drives an electric vehicle, or it's wild, guys. Like, there's nothing about being a man and manhood and this culture of being, you know, grizzled and tough and all these kind of things. Like, there's nothing about that is synonymous with EV culture. EV culture is this, you know, this affluent Austinite, you know, that lives in an apartment, you know, that has access to everything within like 5 minutes. It's a really weird kind of person. You know, this person is probably a vegetarian. And again, I know people don't like this kind of content necessarily, but this is kind of the truth. This is just, it's again, it's bad, guys. We got to get this production back to America. We got to get these parts back to America. We get people making things again, and you want to cure the infertility rate, or the fertility rate problem that we have here. Like, get people back doing man shit. Like, it really helps, guys. It really does. So anyway, that's software controls. Good. Last thing I want to talk about is scaling. All right, scaling is what has to happen in order to make all the other things I've talked about work. If you can't scale up your production enough to mass manufacture things, you know, big factories. I mean, you're talking like factories, 100, 200, 300, 500,000 square feet factories that use insane amounts of power, right? Insane amounts of gas to produce tons of little widgets that are sent back to America and priced as though they were made here in America, right? You guys notice this stuff? Like, this shit that's overseas, especially if it's a brand name attached to it, like, it costs nothing to make over there, but it's charged like I made it. Like, it's really wild. That's how these companies get rich, you know? But they have to have these massive manufacturing facilities over in these other countries in order to make the numbers work, you know? Because the truth is that if production slows down at all, these factories cease to work. You know, you can't open a mega factory at half capacity. It doesn't work. It costs too much money to turn the lights on, right? And I know this because of a book I read called Boss Life by a guy named Paul Downs. Great book about furniture making, a furniture maker who who had a business and had to learn how to grow the business as a fabricator to then become a business owner or more of a business savvy person, and just the struggles that this guy dealt with learning about marketing and, again, scaling, which is what we're talking about now. The guy took a trip over to Europe, right? And he had this European that had a factory over there, made beautiful furniture. And they called him and said, "Hey, Paul, why don't you come over here to Europe and come see if you can make some furniture for us? So why don't you come look at our pieces and tell us what you think?" He flies over there, and he goes over and he looks at this factory, and he's walking to this factory and he thinks, God damn, man, this is the most beautiful factory I've ever been in. Beautiful lighting, beautiful machines, everything's clean, and lots of vacuum and power and blah blah blah. Well, he says, man, well, how come you guys don't, like, you guys have the most beautiful factory I've ever seen? Like, what do you mean you need me to make furniture for you? Like, I'm little Paul Downs here in Pennsylvania, so you guys are this massive company. They said, yeah, Paul, sales suck. Like, we have no business, right? And the business that we do have, we can't afford, because our factory is so large that to turn the power on costs more than the sales that we have to keep the company open, right? So they're looking for people, little small fabricators outside, to make little amounts of furniture for them because they got too big. Well, that's what's happened in manufacturing today, and we don't want to talk about it. Like, hey, if you want Apple to produce things back in America, stop buying Apple products. Like, they will have to bring production back to America because they can't turn over enough product in these other countries to keep these massive factories open, right? These factories, you got to remember, these factories, they've got 100,000 people working at them. Like, that's, I mean, wrap your head around that for a second. If you stop buying this shit, other people will be able to enter the marketplace because these large companies that are using all this cheap labor will no longer have a stranglehold over the markets that they're in, and again, it's a very hard thing for people to understand, but I talk about it in the furniture space all the time. The furniture is my business. I know it, better than probably anything in my life, and one of the problems that we have today is a lot of these mega corporations, Restoration Hardware, Williams Sonoma, Crate and Barrel, whatever, Pottery Barn, which I think some of these are owned by the same company. They make all their shit in Vietnam and the Philippines and Indonesia and China. And they're able to do that and have these beautiful retail locations here, this big, massive management team and all these shareholders, because all the value is being produced over in another country for $2 an hour instead of being produced in America for, would probably be close to $50 an hour, right? But the truth is that if you took all the money that all the executives, all of the shareholders, the insanely nice retail locations, and you guys pared that back and gave that money to the people that were making the shit here in America, it would all kind of be a wash, right? And you'd have a mega corporation that's basically like my company today, where I don't make a ton of money. I make enough money to, like I said, middle class, slightly above, and it's because we share the money with our employees, right? We pay our people well. If they got money problems, we generally try and help them out with whatever their issue is, and it's kind of how it should work, but we don't do that. When companies get really large, they don't hire more people to help with that growth. They send that production overseas so they can hire twice as many people to figure out how things are done here in America and then produce even more at scale, right? They take the innovations that we have created here in America because of our freedom, because of our laws, because of our regulations, and because of the ingenuity that we have within our country, and they send it over to another country. They sell out your country in order to get more people over there making things for cheap to then sell back to Americans as though Americans made them. And it's a huge problem, guys. And with the engineered obsolescent model, today we don't demand a higher quality product, right? If Audi wants to stop making dual clutch transmissions that don't fail at 60,000 miles, right? People would stop buying Audis, right? But Audi's not going to do it. They don't have to. Who the fuck else is going to make their cars? No one else. No one else is going to make an Audi, right? No one else is going to make a car that competes with Audi's design. Audi has a lock on designs, the power to weight ratio of their vehicles, the luxury, all these kind of things. There's no competition. You don't have Joe Blow in his garage building cars because you can't compete with these companies. They're too large. They've got too many of these controls that I was talking about, right? Right to repair. You can't work on your Audi, right? You have to have Audi's proprietary VAG software in order to work on a lot of this stuff, VAG, whatever it is, VAG. Parts recognition. Again, you can't work on your Audi if you want to use a cheap generic part because the modules are not going to talk to the cheap generic modules. And if they do, they're going to fuck with your driving experience so that you're like, huh, this is kind of odd, man. Maybe I should take this to Audi instead of that independent that I had, right? The software controls, what I was talking about, they're going to mess with everything. It's and the scaling, right? I mean, the scaling thing is the biggest thing. Like, you can't make a car yourself. There's no way to get the parts. There's no way to scale up production. There's no way to do that shit, unless you have some kind of massive inheritance, you have some kind of an engineering background, maybe you work for somebody for a long time. Like, it's just very difficult, guys. We have to get the production to come back to America to where it makes sense to have multiple like we think we have a lot of car manufacturers, like we don't. Like go to China, look how many car manufacturers they have over there. Like it's fucking insane how many EV manufacturers there are over there. You know, I think BYD is the biggest one, but they've got just an insane amount of it. It's like a freaking Amazon store over there of car manufacturers. Meanwhile here, what have we got? Like 8? It's ridiculous. How many phone companies are there? Like anytime that a competitor comes into the American market that might have a decent product, i.e. Huawei, the government says, nah, it's they're looking at your data, right? We can't have them. They're sending data back to the Chinese, you know, Communist Party. We can't have that manufacturer. Outlawed, right? BYD, right? Makes an EV for like 15 grand, 20 grand, I think, you know. Largest shareholder, I believe, is Warren Buffett, by the way. They want to bring a car in here for 20 grand. Well, that puts all of our companies out of business, right? Because we only have, what, 4 of them that make EVs? We have some of them that are trying to make EVs, but they're giving up on it. They were just doing it because they got federal money. You know, it looked good on paper to act like you were going to go EV, but they're all going back to gas engines, and you guys haven't noticed. So you're basically going to be left with Tesla, and you've got, what's the other, Rivian. You know, you might have Lucid if the Saudis keep funding it, you know, but again, competition, guys. It's all about competition. You want to let the world's competition in here? Great. Trump's got an answer for that. Pay a tariff to do it, right? You want to bring your $20,000 BYD car in here? Great. You're going to pay a 400% tariff on that vehicle because you're going to pay a 400% tariff from anything coming in from China. That's the way it works. Then it's essentially comparable to America, so it makes sense to then manufacture in America, right? But then they'll say, oh, the money will leave. Everyone will leave. Okay, well, why do you think money is able to leave so easily? Have you guys thought about this? Like, this is a big deal. So one of the reasons that money can just kind of go wherever it wants to go now is because everything's become digital, right? Digital products, while great for convenience and they're allowing us to talk here on the stream, digital products have created it's almost like it's created like, it's like whatever, Chinese finger cuffs. You know, it's like, yeah, it's great, you're in there, you know, but to get out, like it's got to get worse before it can get better, you know? And I don't know if we're going to get out of the situation, right? Because the truth is that AI is going to come for the jobs, right? Things are only going to be made in foreign companies where labor's cheap, and the people that own the companies and the patents, the investors and the investor class, they're going to have all the money, and they're never going to give this up, you know? Which means the only thing you can do with people at some point is you got to get rid of all the people because you're not going to need them. They're going to be too expensive. They're a burden. One of the reasons that people want to go over to AI and want to go over to robots and all this kind of stuff is because people whine. Like humans require insurance, they can hurt themselves. You know, they tend to want things to be a little bit nicer than average. And there's just like anything could possibly go wrong with a company and its ability to make money it's the human condition, you know? So what they're going to want to do eventually is this thing called transhumanism, you know? And eventually they're going to try and get your brain into a machine so that you can then work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if something breaks on you, they just replace it, right? You don't need healthcare. You don't need insurance. You don't need any of that shit. You know, you're just a consciousness, right? Physically, you're able just to keep moving. You know, it's like, that's what they're gonna have to get to, you know, and it's, it sounds terrible, guys, you know, but these people that have all the money and the people that are super wealthy and the investor class, right? They'll be able to live forever because the truth is they're gonna go transhuman as well, right? They're gonna want their bodies in a machine, you know, provided that they can't live forever, which in their bodies, which is what they would ultimately want to do. But the truth is that they're just gonna move from body to body to body to body to body and control everything forever. And it's just, it's so nihilistic. But anyway, I think that's probably my talk for the day, guys. I know it's, again, this is a topic that I think about quite a bit. It's not the most like in-depth knowledge about the issue, but I hope it's giving you guys something to think about. The part serialization thing is the big one. You know, the reason that components don't play nice with other people, it's not because the manufacturer of the generic component made a bad component. It's because it doesn't have the serial number that the manufacturer wants it to have, so it will not play nice with each other. And again, I've seen this with iPhone screens. I've seen it with car components. It's a thing, guys. It's only going to get worse unless people are aware of it and people talk about it. And at some point, you know, we are able to get Congress or somebody to talk about this issue. You know, so anyway, I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. It's Labor Day, and I hope everyone's got Monday off as well. And you guys have a good time. I will be working. So my talk for tomorrow, hell, I don't even remember what I put down, but we're going to talk about something tomorrow. I already pre-planned it, so look at the stream. We'll talk about that, and yeah, have a burger, have a beer,